Hi chickens, welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally back to baking cakes again, and we are going to start it off with a beauty. I have in my possession this legitimate licensed Cabbage Patch Kid 3D cake mold from 1984. A very sweet Instagram follower who also watches the channel gifted this to me. She said that she thrifted it and she just wanted to get rid of it, so I don't know why. So for those of you who don't know, people born after 2000, Cabbage Patch dolls were, oh wait, they're called Cabbage Patch Kids. You have to call them kids because if you call them dolls, it hurts their feelings.
That's creepy.
So for those of you who don't know, Cabbage Patch Kids were a huge trend in the 80s, like the biggest trend, like moms breaking their legs at the department store kind of trend. They're also just a little bit unsettling. They're a little bit too lifelike, a little bit too real, a little bit ripe for some. So obviously I am humbly attracted to their unsettlingness, and I'm very excited to make one today. We are going to make the cake as per the 1984 instruction pamphlet. Look at this booklet. It's so good. It's so cute. So I'll be making the frosting according to instructions, the cake, just doing everything so that we can get a legitimate Cabbage Patch doll of my own. Someone had to draw these illustrations, and someone had to draw putting a baby in the oven, which is, the 80s were wild. This channel wouldn't be this channel if I hadn't tumbled down a research hole when I was getting ready to shoot this video. I was like, oh, I'll just look up a couple of Cabbage Patch Kids facts so I can spit them out, seem smart, tell people about it, and I uncovered a conspiracy? No, I didn't. I uncovered things. This story has everything. It has malice, Kentucky folk artists, bunny bees, magic crystals. It's gonna get weird.
Okay, let's see what's inside here. Oh, here he comes. It's a little boy. Give him a smack on the bottom.
Okay, so we're gonna start baking our cake because I think it's going to take roughly 1,000,000 years to cool because she's fake. So to bake it, she'll obviously be, like, we fill her up. Wait, and then she goes, and then she goes, and then she goes here. She rests. I mean, I think that's it, right? So I'm gonna grease this extremely well. If I had cooking spray, I think that might actually be better, but I don't. So lining paste, half oil, half flour. Just got so many ridges, nooks. Oh no, it's already dripping out. Okay, this is not boding well. Using a pastry brush. Oh, she says to use solid vegetable shortening. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so our cake pan is prepared and we can now start on our cake. The instructions say that we need 6 cups of cake batter, and pound or fern pudding added cake batters work best. I think that's just because it's like heavier and more dense, so it can hold the shape better without shrinking or anything. So I'm not going to use my usual cake batter because it does tend to shrink, so we're not going to get the same shape and also the structure because it's so big. So I'm just going to be using a typical pound cake recipe, but I'm going to make it lemon poppy seed just so that it's cute, whatever, just so it's cute. So I already have 3 sticks of butter, vegan butter, in here. I'm gonna add 1 more to make a pound of butter. So there's a pound of butter, a cup of sugar, and we're going to just keep mixing it with the paddle attachment until it's really light and fluffy, like it's completely changed color and texture. can see it's a lot lighter in color and fluffier. It's like white now instead of pale yellow. And if you feel it, the sugar chunks don't feel quite so coarse. Before it's finished whipping, I'm going to put in the zest of 1 lemon so that the sugar crystals can kind of like rub out those citrus oils, which will make it extra lemony. Rub out those citrus oils. I know I said it, okay? So it basically looks like frosting now. I mean, there's still sugar crystals in there, but we are at the correct stage. So I'm gonna add, I have 4 eggs. I'm gonna add each egg 1 at a time. Okay, now I'm actually gonna add half a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder to the butter mixture. And what that's gonna do is kind of protect those leaveners so that they don't really whoosh up until the cake is like hot in the oven. So we'll really like save those. So we'll mix those in now. And then what I have is half a cup of soy milk. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla to that. And in here I have 2 cups of gluten-free flour mix. This is Bob's 1 for 1, and a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. And we're just gonna alternatively add a little milk, a little flour until it's all mixed together. Okay, and I'm just gonna add a 1/4 cup of poppy seeds to that, and we will finish mixing it and put it in the pan. I just wanna like, oh. Yeah, it is pretty weird to be stuffing an upside down baby. She's almost complete. And the batter is so thick that my concern about it running at the bottom is not an issue, so that's great. She's sleeping.
Oh, here he comes.
It's a little boy.
So I took this out of the oven. It's been cooling for 10 minutes, right side up. So I'm gonna release it, do the first part of releasing it. So I have to, I'm really scared. I hate this. Some cake batter came at the top. Oh no. Her head came off a little bit, but it's okay. It'll be fine. We can fix it with frosting. Okay, I have only semi-decapitated our doll. And now I put this back on. Flip it and reverse it. No, it fully came off! We have to let the cake cool completely, or at least for 4 hours. So it's gonna be dark in like an hour, so I will see you tomorrow to finish this. My baby.
Bit of powder, make him smell beautiful.
Okay, so I have 5 colors prepared because I chose the Party Cabbage Patch Kid cake, but you also have the options of the Cheerful Cabbage Patch Kid cake and Best Friend Cabbage Patch Kid cake. All rights reserved. And then for the pastry tips, I'm using a Wilton 3-5, which are just round nozzles, a 16, and then I think it called for a 104, but I don't have a 104. I have a 103 though, so it's just like a ruffle tip, so we'll just use that. I think I have like a 103 and a 105. I fitted each of the frosting bags with a coupler because I'm gonna be switching out the different nozzles with each color, and then just washing them in between. So I'm gonna start with the brown outlining, and then we'll get to the story of Cabbage Patch Kids. Cover shoes, make dots. Add buttons to shoes. What the fuck? What do you mean add buttons? Shoes? You've got a long way to go, baby. Okay, so the legend of Cabbage Patch Kids, like the American dream legend, is that Xavier Roberts was a young man in his 20s in art school and started experimenting with soft sculpture, which is like a German technique from the 19th century, and started making these little people dolls that were like very realistic. And one of the things that he did to like be like, these are real kids, not dolls, is that they would come with adoption papers. So when you got your little people kid, you would get the adoption papers that come with it. So it's like you're adopting a kid and a little letter saying their name. And he even opened like a fake doctor's office so that you could see nurses and adopt your baby. It was called Babyland General Hospital. The original Little People doll are so much scarier than Cabbage Patch Kids. You need to know this because I have had to look at them. And they're so scary. So in 1981, at the height of Robert's success, he was approached by Roger Schlafer, who was like a licensing agent for toy companies. And he was like, oh yes, we can make big, big money on this. But Little People was already licensed by Fisher-Price, like in the toy division, like, you know, Little People toys. So Schlafer came up with this new name, Cabbage Patch Kids, and decided to market them as the Cabbage Patch Kids. And to like secure this legend, him and his wife came up with this like story of the Cabbage Patch Kids about these bunny bees that would use their ears to fly, and they would fly over cabbage patches and pollinate the cabbages with magic crystals, and then the Cabbage Patch Kids would be born. The 80s were cool. What was going on there? They couldn't sell enough of them. People were literally breaking their legs, fighting for the Cabbage Patch dolls, and people had opinions.
I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like their faces, but I want one.
Cut to, I don't like them, but I want one.
But I want one.
Okay, so just to check in, Xavier Roberts is a bathtub cowboy. He's the king of the Cabbage Patch, and is just like living it up, being really successful, and being an amazing artist. Except there's one thing. Xavier Roberts never came up with the design for Cabbage Patch Kids. I know. Let it sink in. Oops. So it turns out that Xavier Roberts actually got the idea for Little People dolls from a woman named Martha Nelson Thomas, who was a Kentucky folk artist who made very cute little baby dolls that were called doll babies. And they were made of soft sculpture. She'd been making them since the early 70s. And they came with adoption papers. She sold them at folk art and craft sales across the South. And Xavier Roberts at the time was running a gift shop in Cleveland, Georgia. So he bought a couple of the doll babies to sell at his gift shop, and they were super, super successful. However, in the late 70s, Martha was like, I'm gonna go visit him. These dolls are my literal babies. They are an extension of me. She went to his gift shop and discovered that he was overcharging for the dolls. So she took back her doll babies and said, you can't sell my doll babies anymore. Xavier Roberts told her that he would be selling the doll babies no matter what. And he put in an order to a Hong Kong factory to have a bunch of doll babies made. So it turns out that Xavier Roberts' beautiful American dream is a truly American dream, full of corruption, lies, and deceit. Martha did eventually take Xavier to court. They did settle for an unknown amount out of court. So I think that what I could tell from the documentary I watched, which I will post down below, she wasn't upset about not making money, but more so about the corruption of her art and of these doll babies that she really viewed as real people. Like they were really real beings to her. At her funeral, they even, I'm gonna cry, it was so cute. At her funeral a few years ago, they even encouraged everyone who had an original doll baby to bring the doll babies to her funeral, so they were all in the front row for that celebration of her life. Okay, so I will tell you my final Cabbage Patch Kids tale of horror now that it's actually getting dark in here. This one is about the 1996 snack time Cabbage Patch Kid. It had this battery in its backpack, and it had this mechanism where it would like chomp, chomp, chomp and eat French fries and like other snacks that it came with. And then those would end up in its backpack. However, she had a bit of a bloodthirst. So that little doll ate a bunch of kids' hair. And once it started eating, it wouldn't stop because the mechanism couldn't be turned off. The batteries were so deep in the doll that most people couldn't find them without completely taking it apart. So the doll would eat and eat their hair until it was like stuck to their scalps. What the? That's so scary. And like, what if I had asked for that? I was alive. Don't tell anyone. I think it's done. I don't think we're gonna be able to shoot it tonight because it's like literally pitch dark out, but should we give her adoption papers? This is AJ's idea, so don't say that I'm the crazy one. Okay, so to honor grifter Xavier Roberts, we have printed a Cabbage Patch Kid adoption paper for our little babe here. So this certifies that, what should I call her? I'm gonna call her Lily. This certifies that Lily was born in the Cabbage Patch on, what day is it? January 27th in Aquarius. Was adopted by Lauren McGowan, and now lives at Violet Bakehouse. Signature of adoption, L. Gowan. AJ, can you come and sign the adoption papers, please? I'm the parent, you're the witness.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, well, here it is, folks. I think it is, oh wait, I have to do the oath. In front of another person, raise your right hand and say, I promise to love my Cabbage Patch Kid with all my heart. I promise to be a good and kind parent. I will always remember how special my Cabbage Patch Kid is to me. That's weird. I'm gonna put this in the fridge and we will work on this tomorrow. It got so late, it's so dark outside. I'm gonna go figure out what is wrong with my damn lights. Bye, that's weird. What did we learn today? Don't trust people on the internet that give you strange things. Don't trust anyone that would get into a bathtub with about 40 soft toys. I'm not quite sure, but what I do know is I'm a little bit afraid of the powers I have and that I cut the face off of this thing, but I'm glad I did it. So be sure to like and subscribe if you would like to see more of this. Yeah, leave a comment, really helps. Night.